Interested in the tourism, see,
Well, what do we have? We have tree trimming. That was a budgeted item. You already had the library. You had the compensation pay. Yeah, you may want to move it up.
yeah.
Doesn't matter. You moved everything else around. What's one more item right there?
I've got 302 minutes now again. I had to do a second part, so.
300 more?
And I'm not staying for 300 more. I'm telling you.
Well, we're supposed to be done at 7.
Yeah, well,
I told her I didn't think we'd make it.
Oh, you did?
Something over at, American Legion.
the live stream's still on, the audio is gone.
I'm sorry?
The live stream is on now. I was hoping I could just switch it out and work, but
Yeah.
it isn't.
So people are still watching us.
They are now, yes. I did the second part, so yes.
Hmm.
This part, it's not being recorded right now.
Hey, you haven't sent out that corrected, I know you're busy, or busy is busy.
7, then on my, can you get this done?
I can't imagine
What I'm
how
gonna do, I'm
busy
gonna
you are.
I'm gonna send myself a text.
We're still trying to
Those
get
are
our
heavy subjects.
gas
You
hooked
have to listen.
Yeah, I'm just texting myself right now, get Phil survey out. So tomorrow morning, actually, I'm leaving to go out to, Bandera County first thing tomorrow morning, but I'll get it to you. I'm not even gonna do it tonight.
I think it should be just a.
It's real quick, yeah.
I don't know where that, I guess it was, I don't know where that came from, but, in fact, that's right, nobody's noticed except for me, because even
There, I texted it to myself, so it's on the top of my list.
I appreciate that the escrow agent, you know, he didn't notice it, the realtor, nobody's noticed it.
No,
But
the
it,
kicker is that these days, they use surveys with somebody else's name on it all the time because they just keep reusing them and
Right.
reusing them, so.
But then you're
that's
supposed
not-
to sign that
They're
piece
not
of
even,
paper.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. So,
But since it is a fresh survey, so yeah.
yeah, I know that name appeared somewhere in my file, I don't know where it came from. So, there it is.
No big deal.
I'll get it taken care of. I just have to find your email. You're texting.
I mean, do I need to?
Yeah, do that, just resend that one to
I
me.
think I texted it.
Yeah, I think you did. And you know what happens with texts,
Yeah.
they get buried.
Oh, yeah.
I get 150 emails a day, most of it garbage.
Let me see. Okay, so here the title. Oh, yeah, here it is.
Thank you. That'll remind me.
Good.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, I found out last week that Robert's Rules has published a newer version.
Uh-oh.
There's now another version out. It's
Better get reading.
the current version.
Uh-oh.
So what's this one change? Anything?
I haven't really studied it yet. But,
Is it shorter?
No, it's
No, it's longer.
paperback version, an inch and a half. But just as a matter of consistency, we should put an item on our agenda to adopt this as our current used version,
The newest version, you
the
mean?
newest version. Yeah.
That'll be under future agenda items to keep us legal
Yeah, keep us legal.
when you're ready. She's not here, but it's going.
Okay, we're good to start back?
Here's juice.
I think. Is it going? You actually have to hit something?
Make a motion.
What's that?
You broadcast.
Request a
It's on.
No,
It's
it's
on
not.
audio here.
Everybody, different discussions going on, so you're supposed to put off that. You have to actually get.
You ready? All right.
Out.
We're going to reconvene at 7:17. And I'm gonna move us around again out of consideration for some folks that are here who might want to stick around for some of the traffic talk, but. So the next item, and I didn't put a presentation together because I've already done this presentation, and we've talked about it a number of times. This item is discussion and appropriate action on creating a Convention and Visitor Bureau Board to promote tourism, guidelines and membership, including guidelines and membership requirements. I'm not recommending that we talk about the potential people today. I think we talk about the general, if council approves the board, then it's talking about the membership, the people that should be involved with it. What I had recommended is that the tourism board helps us shape what we're doing with the hot funds. There was a question about the hot funds before, and so I think that we need to have somebody from our hotel industry on the board, somebody from the chamber specifically on the board, a local business, a local resident, and then one additional. So,
And that would come back in the guidelines and the membership, because it comes back with an ordinance. This ordinance would include that.
So if we vote for this, are we directing staff to come back and tell us what the proposed guide, or do you get a group of volunteers to develop a bylaws, that then we would vote on the bylaws?
I think the
I think
bylaws
that's
are
a
pretty
process.
straightforward, almost boilerplate. Do you feel like we need to have do we need to have a committee to put those together? Or is that something that we can put together from city staff?
We can certainly give you examples of bylaws of other CBVs.
Is it an advisory board, or is there just a, I mean,
Mhm.
if it's gonna be an advisory board, we should treat it like all the other boards, and we should create the same documentation, the same guidelines, so we don't have any.
Well, the guidelines would be slightly different because the tourism board would be people that are specifically looking at bringing additional, I'd call it fun and money into Castroville. So the primary purpose of the tourism board is to encourage, when you look at tourism, it's looking at, I really want the tourism board to look at how many people we're bringing in, where we're bringing them in from, and how much of a financial change we're achieving because of it. With tourism, it's how many people you bring and how much they spend, how much they leave here when they go.
Tourism board doesn't even appear in this thing. It's called a Convention and Visitors Bureau, so you're calling
It
it
is a
something
tourism board,
else?
right. It is a Convention and Visitor Bureau is the typical name a lot of the cities are using for their tourism board. Most of them, if you look at, I've seen Fredericksburg and a few others that, like, they create these specifically for tourism. Most of those are funded out of the hot funds, but having it as a Convention and Visitor Bureau actually puts it into another class. Although the function is the same as the tourism board, it puts it into another class of cities that are actually looking at tourism more seriously, and so it opens up some additional, like, membership opportunities and such for the board to be able to leverage.
So again, if we vote to, so if I made a motion to create a Convention and Visitors Bureau Board, is that all we need to do here, or are we directing city staff to come back and tell us what the makeup of this board is going to be? Or, in other words, I don't know, I'm for this, by the way, I just don't know what the steps are to get this thing moving down the road. I know some of the people that I think should be on it, but help me.
Sure. I think that what we need to do right now is determine first, is there any concern about the general intent of the board, what we're looking at from them? And if not, and you are in favor of this, what are some of the guidelines? Like, who do we want to have on there? If they're trying to bring in,
You just said you don't want to talk about who's going
That's
to be on there.
exactly
what's
right.
that?
You said.
Yeah, I thought you said at the beginning you didn't want to talk about who's going to.
No, I think that somebody from the chamber needs to be on it. Somebody from a local business needs to be on it. These are.
But you don't want to name names.
No, I don't want to name names. I think that we look at, I mean, it's nice to fit a name to a position, but I think it's better to look at what is the role in the city, what is their role in the board, and so that kind of shapes, Can you have people from out of the city on the board? And I think the answer is yes.
In
And
defense of
that's
what,
part of the membership
in defense of what
requirement.
Councilman Dyer was saying, I mean, if it's an advisory board, I think he was right in that it should be treated like every other advisory board. They will have different duties because of it's a CVB, and because they have some recommendation on hotel motel use of those funds, those tax funds. But from an advisory status and all the other linkages, if you want to think about them that way, between these advisory boards and the council and the terminologies that you use, et cetera, that would all be pretty comparable. I mean, it'd be basically the same thing.
So they wouldn't have bylaws.
No, because I think, well, do our advisory boards have bylaws?
No. Well, they have a makeup of, well, some.
I was gonna
like
say,
the
they
Historic
have
Landmark
a
Commission
charge.
has certain things.
And P&Z
Depends on-
does.
It depends on the board. Of course, P&Z is kind of.
So yes, I think they would have
Legislation,
bylaws
yeah.
because they still would be able to call meetings, they'd still be able to run those meetings. So anytime you're doing those things, you need to have a set of rules or
And
procedures
it
that guide
would be in
that.
the ordinance, and plus, if you want, like we said, membership, if you want a 7-member board, that's what we put in there. If you wanted 2 people from outside the city, you don't maybe necessarily want everybody outside the city, depending. Certain boards, we have that, requirement. So it would be makeup for that board, because they would have to have a certain amount for a quorum, that type of thing.
So would the motion then be, the motion be that we direct city staff to,
If you wish to create the board,
To
I guess would
create
be
the board.
would be the motion,
okay,
and then to
Don't look at me.
bring back an ordinance, because it would be by ordinance,
and bring back an ordinance?
with guidelines and
Phil's
membership.
shaping his motion right now.
Yeah, I know.
I moved to create the board and direct staff to create bylaws.
We would
and-
bring
Or
back an ordinance
specifications,
with
yeah.
requirements for membership and,
My question for requirements for membership is, I know that you already have council members. I would recommend for that last position, that it either be a council member or a staff member, one of the two. Ideally, a
with
council
most-
member, but I know that you all are already
a
spread
liaison or
thin.
no?
Yeah,
Yes.
as the council-appointed liaison to the board, like an actual voting board member, I think would be appropriate, just like you did with the EDC. You have 3 council members on that.
But that's the only one that we have a council member on as a
No,
voting
but you're a
member.
board, yeah,
Right.
yes.
The other ones are liaisons. Is there a reason not to do a liaison on this one?
No, as long as you had a liaison appointed, I think it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. I also don't see any conflict of having a voting council member on, or a council member with a voting position on a board. I don't think there's an issue with that either.
So I would like a motion to direct staff to create a convention and visitors bureau and, right?
No.
Oh,
Well,
not a board, but a convention and visitors
Bureau Advisory Board.
advisory board.
You're actually want us to create the ordinance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Because we're not going to create the board. We'll create the ordinance, bring the ordinance back, and then you will create the board.
you want to create the ordinance, creating a convention and visitors bureau
Advisory Board.
advisory board and bring that back to council for final approval of that language. Or correct me if I need to be corrected.
Is that,
you're, okay.
Say it, then I'm gonna say so said.
Well, no, on this motion, you're voting to create this board,
Directing staff
to bring back an ordinance.
Ratifying the creation of? or
No,
what?
they're creating it, but then we're gonna bring back the guidelines, and, I mean, the ordinance itself is gonna come back.
But it isn't really created until the ordinance is adopted, right?
Well,
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, so, yeah.
You're
so-
approving approving the creation of, I don't know how you
Yeah,
say
the
this.
creation of an ordinance that we created, I think that's fine. I think what you said is fine.
So I
Is that-
make a motion.
The intent's understood by council that what we would be doing, you would be making the formal action, expressing your desire to create the board. Council will create the ordinance, bring it back to you for adoption, and then we'll
staff
authorize.
will create the ordinance and bring it back to us for adoption. That's my motion.
Okay, I'll figure it out. Okay.
all right, do I have a second?
Yes, second.
All
We
right,
did those puzzles, we had to go exit.
any
It
discussion?
started out simple.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
We will have another chance to look at the details.
Motion passes. All right, great, thank you. All right, next time, we're going to go back on schedule as much as we can. So number 11, discussion and appropriate action on increasing city council and mayor meeting
No,
compensation.
it's actually 9, I'm sorry, you should be on 9, which would be the tree trimming.
Right.
I thought I had already done that. You're right, 9, okay.
Right?
You're right, 9 at 7:27. Discussion and appropriate action on authorizing the city administrator to use the Medina County Electric Co-op Contractor Support Program for tree trimming services within the city limits.
Given that we had no responses to our request for,
That was kind of amazing.
So that was a while back, but yes.
So moved.
Back in the day, I'd have took that $80,000.
So you made a
And I
motion.
did send you all the information. It was budgeted, again, it's one of those items budgeted last year. It rolled forward into our fund balance. The money's still there, we just didn't use it. And that's what we plan on using for this. What you don't have, and I will send to you subsequent to this meeting, is a map of the area that's affected. It is a little bit alarming because the map shows most of Castroville with green lines on it.
That
Those
was
are,
in the,
It's in there.
yes, well, yes, that's the scope of what we would like to do. What's alarming is what is not present on the map is the scope that this actually pays for. And it's much, much, much smaller. So we have a lot of work cut out for us, and I think, Mayor, your idea of spending a little bit every year is probably a good one, because we've got a lot to do.
What percent of the map would you say we're?
I would say
paying for?
maybe 10%, 15%.
wow.
It's
Wow.
very small. We're going to do most of, it will take care of, but it's going to take care of some of the harder to do areas,
Criticals.
like Lower Lacoste and that bridge area. We have a major transmission line that feeds the city that comes from CPS, and we need to clear that line. And
That has been blown down by.
That would need priority.
Right, so we
Within the last
probably,
couple of years.
the stuff that be done
To watch
first
that
is the
thing
stuff
blow
of
from my
highest
house.
priority.
I'll
It's
remember.
not,
No, I watched it blow from my house. I was sitting in my backyard.
Do my constituents get a break or a better deal, means they don't have no power lines in their neighborhood?
Yeah, they don't have to pay any more than anybody
No.
else does in taxes.
unfortunately, it's all connected, and you have to have power throughout the entire city, and they get the privilege of paying for that. Everyone does. Same thing with sewer plant.
Just
Same
a
thing with
joke.
school tax.
Mr. Mayor, I did move to approve that as written.
Great, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
one question. Is Medina Electric Co-op, they don't do these services in-house, so they're going to hire somebody.
They have,
Well, we're just using their contractor.
they have a full-time contractor.
So we're using their contractor.
So the way that works is we have an interlocal with them.
And I remember that.
Yeah, and the interlocal gives us access to the things that they have already publicly bid, et cetera. So we don't have to go through that process
Their
because they
rates
have,
and everything.
yeah, they already have a contractual rate they established through a public bid process. That's the beauty of interlocals. If we had, if Honda went out for bid on streets, and we had the exact same stuff we needed done here, we could do an interlocal with Honda and just use their contractor and avoid the bid process, and that's perfectly legal to do.
So we'll be hiring the contractor. In other words, are we going to be paying the fee to the
The
electric?
contractor, no, to the
No, we'll be
contractor.
doing it to the contractor. So it's a direct contractor.
We're actually doing something similar with CPS for our gas meter replacement program, where we're
Understand.
using their contractor and just paying their contractor directly.
Then that's the only question I have.
All right, more discussion? I got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Now you can go to 11.
Now I'm going to go to 11. All right.
Certain time.
At a certain time, that would be 7:31. Discussion and appropriate action on increasing city council and mayor meeting compensation pay by 25%. Now, this action, or this item is with Herb Dyer.
Yeah, I brought this up because I think this is needed. It's very obvious that our meetings have been getting longer. The packages run anywhere from 60 pages to 300 plus. And I can tell you how much time I spend reading them, and it takes a long time. And I write questions to Scott, and then he works out answers, and that shortens the meeting time. If I had to present all my questions during the meeting, we'd be sitting here an hour just talking about one item. But example, this week, he answered every one of my questions before the meeting, in a way that I'm quite satisfied with every one of the answers. So I didn't have to even bring them up. But
Well, and for the public's benefit, and you all know this, but they may not, I mean, anytime I do that, the rest of the council gets the benefit because you get all the same questions and answers, so that you all have that information before the meeting.
Right.
It's
So
very,
the-
very helpful.
The bottom line is, a typical meeting, we're spending somewhere between 10 and 20 hours, or 10 and 15 hours preparing and interacting to try to keep the meeting moving along. And then the length of meetings, sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. And I think that the compensation that we're getting now is not very appealing to cause people to think about, hey, do I want to do this city service and have to donate all those hours and not get any compensation for it? I think the compensation's good now, and we won't benefit, the members of the board will not benefit, or the council,
Yeah, you can't vote to
on
give
this
yourself a
vote.
raise.
So if we vote for this, we won't get it till the next election, and people get sworn in after the next election will get it. So what I'm proposing is that we would raise the amount of compensation by 25%. That would go from 40 to 50 per council member per meeting, and 50 to 60 for the mayor per meeting. The cost would be an increase of 25%, and it will affect us this fiscal year because we're going to have an election, and the next election is going to be over in May. So this fiscal year, those that get sworn in after the election will start drawing the newer amounts, which means we're going to have to do a budget amendment once that's calculated how much it's going to cost. So there will be a budget amendment needed. And I can just tell you it'll be approximately 25% of the cost. So that's my position.
If I may ask the city secretary a question, do you know the last time the rate was changed? Because I think we looked at it earlier and I just don't remember the year.
That was my question.
Well,
been-
looking back, there is a an ordinance, and we'll have to do this by ordinance, and I just didn't bring one. In '07, they had one on the books, but that was right before I came, and it's not signed, but it's for this amount. And looking back at the minutes, I went back in the minutes, and when Mayor Lee was in office, I think he went back and questioned and made sure it was
Legal.
correct. And they said from 1999, from those minutes, that it was because the council took action then. So it is in effect.
So is the
it's
last time it was
99.
changed or updated was 99 or 07?
They, at that time when the mayor pro tem was in office, I think he was trying to make one because it was not shown.
Oh,
From
okay.
looking at the minutes.
So they didn't
back.
change the rates in 07,
Right.
they just ratified the rate that was
Right.
already in place, but it
Right.
had been in place since 99.
Yes.
So just speaking, again, I know no one's going to get rich doing this, even at a 25% increase, but, you know, for whatever it's worth, I think it's way overdue, and, you know, you guys haven't changed it since 99, and that's kind of silly.
So the reason that I brought this, honestly, it's not something that to me, if that gets increased, then my amount of donation gets increased. I don't do this for the money, and if I did, then I'd have a very poor hourly wage. But I want to make sure that I honor the council people that are working hard in doing this. And the fact that you do this this is really out of the goodness of your heart. The small amount of compensation that each one of you receives, it's almost comical based on the amount of time that you spend doing this stuff. So, you know, the rate of $40, given the amount of time that you spend on that, it's, you know, a whopping, what, $2 an hour? So, this isn't something that I would ever ask for. If it's something that you feel is important and you feel like it would help us take care of future council members, then I'll leave that up to you.
I was surprised when Deborah told me that we actually get paid to do this. When I first came on council, to me,
That's right, I did too.
I just assumed it was a voluntary deal. And, you know, an extra $10 a meeting doesn't change anything to me. I'm still, it's a voluntary effort, and it doesn't even begin to compensate me, but I guess it's like one of the other boards I belong to, or the citizens that on the that on all of our boards. I mean, all these people, they all are just volunteers and just like us in city council. So I mean, if you guys vote to do it, that's fine, but I don't.
You're not gonna get it anyway.
Well, I know, but even, but I guess I feel in some respects I
A
feel
year
really
later,
bad
a year later.
because our boards, and I'm talking about all the boards, they spend a lot of time on those board meetings and they get yelled at and everything else just like we do, and they don't get the $40. So I feel kind of guilty the fact that we
They
do.
don't have 300-page read-aheads for their meetings, though.
Well, sometimes they do though, Irvin. Sometimes they go out there and they dig trenches and they plant plants and they do all the volunteer stuff at the parks. If you look at the people in the Parks Board and,
Spend years writing guidelines.
yeah, like Patrick, everything Patrick Connors did and everything. And I understand where you're coming from. You would like to get some recognition for this effort that we put in, but you know, I remember when the city of San Antonio was a young kid, they got paid $40 a meeting. That was 40 years ago, and they didn't get paid anything, and so they finally did start raising it. But to me, it's not a big deal. It's not on my agenda, but I understand where you're coming from, Herb, but it's just not something that it's big. I mean, I would not have thought about raising it.
You couldn't pay me to do this job.
Yeah, that's not a good thing. Yeah, it's just part, to me, I just see it as voluntary effort.
Yeah, I agree.
So they don't have an ordinance, and it has to be done by ordinance, so they need to take action tonight or not?
If you wish to change the current, you would need to, of course, vote to change it, and we could bring the ordinance back at the next meeting.
Any more discussion? All right, do I have a motion?
I move we raise the compensation pay for city council and mayor by 25%.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
Opposed.
Great, motion passes. All right, thank you.
For the future members of the council, since neither of us are gonna ever say
I
it.
thought you might get to do a tie-breaking vote there, Mayor.
I thought so too.
You dodged it.
Well, and I'll bring it back next meeting, and then, of course,
I'm not up
as
till
you
next
said,
year anyway.
at this May election, whoever goes in, whether it's the current or someone else, it will go into effect for those 3 members, and then the following year, it'll go in for the next 3 members.
All right, thank you. All right, the next item, number 12 at 7:40. Discussion and appropriate action on a request for funding from the Texas Department of Transportation right-of-way and drainage improvements to Highway 90. Get over here. Scott, did you want to do this one or you want me to?
No, I was actually going to let you, I was about to say, if you're comfortable, you can do the next two,
Okay.
because they're, you know as much or more about them than I do.
And so this is really what we want to do. So there, the wording on here is a little bit off. I did help tee it up, and Arnie and the group helped really nail this down. They worked with a company on getting a grant to help beautify Castroville, and we're looking to get approval from TxDOT to allow us. What we're looking at doing is putting them that little strip of land just east of Sammy's, all along that area, and then directly across the street. The funding should pay for city crews to do installation of irrigation and the purchase of the trees and the trees themselves.
On the suggestion I made to the mayor was, hey, you've already secured this funding. Why don't we go to TxDOT and see if we can expand on this effort and get them to do some
Matching.
drainage and other improvements to 90, because now you already have the matching funds, because they do require matching funds for those things, but a lot of times it's a 90-10. And sometimes you can get the COG to put in part of your 10. So it's just, you don't get what you don't ask for, so that was the effort here. But it does require council action to go to TxDOT, and that's this item and the next item. You all need to, as a group, say, yes, this is something we want the city to go pursue.
That's right.
Yeah, all you can do is say no.
So the motion would be to What would it be? I should have written this out. So the motion
To
would be-
authorize, I guess to authorize staff to request TxDOT's participation in a right-of-way improvement effort.
I would like to make a motion, so moved as just stated.
To authorize staff to seek TxDOT's participation in a right-of-way improvement, maintenance and improvement effort.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
I got a question. Tell me exactly what right of way we're talking about?
Yeah, where-
Yeah, so
The strip of land between, just above Sammy's, where that grass strip, you've got the driveways up above and the highways below.
The hill?
Yeah, the hill.
No, well, not the hill.
Further out?
Not the
Like in
hill.
front
no,
of Mom and
closer in.
Dad's?
In
Well,
front of,
It's a
that
bank.
strip there, yeah.
no,
It's
just,
embankment,
so
yeah.
this is just east of Sammy's.
I'm sorry?
Just east of Sammy's by the old, where old Highway 90 is. There's a separation, there's a piece of grass that goes, I can look it on a map.
His
You want it
parents.
on a map?
His
Old
parents live there.
highway goes behind the houses.
Yeah, the old highway's behind the houses.
You're right.
This is the
On the
driveway in
grass
front of the
median,
house.
you're
Can
gonna,
I-
So you're talking about where
It's a
where the
piece of
guardrail
median.
is?
Yeah, that
Do you
green
see this?
strip,
bank?
Do you see this?
that green strip right
It's
there.
this green
Hold
strip.
on, where am I?
Right
Okay,
there.
yeah.
So
Okay.
Sammy's is here, just
Okay.
east of Sammy's, there's the
Okay.
old Highway 90. This grass strip is what we're talking about. And then this one right
Where's it gonna
here.
end?
And then this
At
one
that
here.
next street?
Depends on, it would end no further than that, so it would
Okay.
be somewhere in that area, depends on how far the money can go.
But if we get TxDOT's involvement, what I would like to see is something that's
Drainage
much more
improvement.
expansive, and they look at this whole section.
Because
And they
that
look
whole
at
section
drainage, because we have
floods.
some serious drainage concerns in there that haven't been dealt with. I'd love to see them do 471 as well, but we just need to
There was talk
get
about
your permission to
rezoning
go
some of
tell
that area.
TxDOT, hey, as a council, this is important to us, we want you to put money towards
The
it.
water gets to be 8 or 10 inches deep in those driveways up and down Highway
Right.
90. Yeah.
Not on my side of not on my dad's side of the road.
No,
But on the other side,
on the north
definitely.
side, yeah.
Yeah, it gets,
Definitely.
up here, it certainly does.
Well, what you don't realize it, that's about the breaking point right there where it's gotta run back towards Country Village,
Yeah.
right? It's crazy. It don't look like it should do that, but it does.
it's terrible drainage on the
Terrible.
north side of the highway.
So that's, so this is originally
471 too.
a beautification effort that the mayor basically single-handedly went out, sought, and got approved and
Single-handedly.
got
I
funded.
did not do it single-handedly, I worked with a group.
Just about. I said about, but anyway, without your leadership, it would not have happened. That's a fact. Anyway, you got that. Now we're just trying to leverage that success into broader success. And I'd give this a very low chance of succeeding, frankly. I think at best, we're going to end up with what you had originally proposed, but again, it doesn't hurt to go ask.
Yeah,
So
that's
we
my
need,
question.
we need approval to make
The request.
the request.
Yeah,
Answer my
and they
question.
did, you did.
Yep.
Did you held the vote, right?
Nope.
No.
We had the
I'm sorry,
motion.
No,
okay, time
we have the
out.
motion and
In
a
a
second.
second
Can I-
already.
Who seconded?
Councilman Carey.
And you made the.
Carey.
and-
Phil made the
okay,
motion,
Yep.
sort of.
All right.
Okay,
He
yeah,
cheated.
yeah.
He
Other
cheated,
questions?
right?
Councilman Dyer?
No question.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes, thank you.
Does that go for the other one
Scott
too?
voted.
Sort of.
I voted
I
also.
thought I heard Scott vote. Yeah.
I did not say aye. I've been to in the past, I did not.
Try to use his Jedi mind tricks. All right, let me just make sure I got this.
You got one left.
Got one left. Okay, so
2 left.
this
Very
one,
good, too.
at 7:46, thank you. This item, so I'm gonna read it as stated, but then I want to talk it a little bit further. So discussion and appropriate action on a request for an engineering study by the Texas Department of Transportation for a northern route between Highway 90 and FM 471. What I really believe that, okay, so the reason for this is, in talking to TxDOT, they need an official action by Castroville City Council and by Medina County Commissioners Court to formally request that they come in and do a study. They were very clear on, we would have to implement it, but they need a formal request from us saying, we support basically it is a route a way, another way to go east-west instead of through town, around town. So it doesn't necessarily need to be, all of our planning has been going to north, but we want them to take a look at it and figure out the best, most affordable, most practical way. So that is asking them formally to go and do that.
Well, in my defense, it goes from 90 to 471, and from 90 to 471. I mean, the northern route that language applies equally to east and west, the east side and the west side, because they both meet up at 471.
Perfect. But it could also go out to 173. And so my thought is, keep going, to the left, to the west, to the west, to the west, to the west, to the west.
All the way to Hondo.
All the way to Hondo, yeah. And up to Bandera. It'll help
My
get,
road.
yeah, it'll help Deborah
Oh.
get, by the time it
All
happens,
the way to here. Yeah, okay, that's beyond the scope we've discussed.
that is beyond the scope. But the request from TxDOT is to look at how, basically, how to give, I don't think that we should prescribe exactly how that needs to happen. We work with them, with our traffic engineer, with our current potential plans, but they would do the engineering to figure out the best way to do it. There's a southern route that is possible. It's not, the northern route that we've already worked out with the city, with the county, with the developers is, in our mind, the most feasible, but we really want TxDOT to take a look at this and let us know what that actually looks like.
Shouldn't we be saying, I'm asking the question, 90 to 471 north and then back to 90? Don't we need to specify back to 90?
Well, I think
Looking
we
at
had
the
other
northern
language.
Yeah,
route?
I had other language that was, we want to request that TxDOT do an engineering study to develop alternate routes around Castroville on the east-west route.
What if they develop an alternate route that's different than what we've already got designed for Alsatian Oaks?
Then we would leverage that for that area, and we would leverage theirs for the other area.
So there's no connection.
Doesn't have to be.
There's
Doesn't
no-
have to be. The probability is that they will take the northern route that we've already identified
Because
because
they've
we've
already,
spent a lot of
already
time doing
money
that.
spent on it, right.
Right. The probability is that that's the direction, but the best way to request this of them is to say alternate routes around Castroville for the east-west route.
And what that does not address is the fact that when we were meeting with them, they did say basically they wanted a 300-foot right-of-way.
No, but I think Darren's done a very good job. Our mayor's really been active talking to the folks at TxDOT at much, much, much higher levels.
Good.
And leveraging our U.S. congressman in his office and some other folks. And I'm saying the mayor because honestly, he didn't involve me in any of this, didn't ask my permission, just went and had those conversations. And he's gotten some traction that we did not get in our other conversations. I think that kind of intimated that early on, that the folks we're talking to only know how to say no because that's all they're allowed to say, basically. I mean, there's very little power that they're given.
Right, no.
That would
They're told
impact
what to
us.
do.
They do what they can. They're good people, but to get a yes, you really do have to elevate it. And I think the mayor's done an excellent job of doing that. And
Very
that's
good.
this request from the mayor is a result of his efforts. And he's clarified for us, this is what we have to do. You know, as council, you need to go and put this language and say this. So you got the motion, and I think that's the motion that he's looking for is request to TxDOT. I don't know if you want to read it
I
again.
don't think you've got a motion yet.
Yeah. Well, and to be clear, every senator, congressman, elected official, and candidate that I've talked to, I've said the only thing that we need is about $60 million to build a road that alleviates traffic. That's all I need. Tongue-in-cheek aside, I have been asking them, everybody that would listen, not something unreasonable, but we need help with this. This is all stuff that's affecting the city that is outside of the city limits. So the motion would be
Here he goes.
to request that TxDOT do an engineering study for an alternate route around Castroville for the east-west route.
I'd like to make a motion that the city of Castroville request an engineering study by the Texas Department of Transportation for an alternate route east and west around Castroville.
Great. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
And it kind of mentioned this, one of the things the mayor discovered was that TxDOT was reticent to do this in part, and the reason they're requesting the city go through this effort and the county is that 20-plus years ago, they looked at this. And 20-plus years ago, there was a lot of local resistance to it. And so they wanted to make sure the council was behind it in case there is local resistance to creating an alternate route. Because obviously, you know, that ugly term bypass, that can have a negative effect on a city, and it can, and that's what they're worried
businesses,
about.
for
Right.
We didn't say that's about bypass, we talked alternate route.
I know, exactly.
We also discussed that, you know, people don't just, on the spur of the moment, decide to stop at the local businesses. If they're going there, they're going there, and they'll go out of their way to get there,
I
so.
think if you take the cell phones out of all their automobiles, when they come into the city limits, they could get through town a little faster. In my experience. It's unbelievable.
All right, next item
Last item,
is discussion on future agenda items.
I brought
Alright.
this up during the break. I don't think a couple of people heard me, but Robert's Rules has published a new edition. And it is customary to adopt the current edition as your guidelines in these kinds of organizations. So I would just recommend that we adopt, I think it's the 12th edition. I will clarify that with Deborah.
I'll look and see, because I know in your.
I got a copy in
policies-
my, I got a copy in my
Well, in your
office.
policies and procedures, it says we go by the Robert's rules, and so.
It doesn't say which edition though, and I think it's
No, and
important.
that's why it's broad.
Yeah, yeah.
It would be probably the latest, but I can double check,
Okay.
and we'll do an ordinance if we need to.
If it does say the latest edition, I guess
It's
we
gonna make me
cover it.
read those though, and
I know.
I have one that is in
Not a
my
reader.
office for dummies, so it's probably a newer edition.
All right, anything
Okay,
else?
that's it.
Councilman King?
No, I think I'm still waiting for,
Solid waste is one of the, I gave you answers on some of the other stuff today. You probably haven't seen your email because you've been busy all day, but I did give you an answer about the utility billing timing and how that's
Oh.
being handled. So that was
Yeah.
yours. And then there was a question about solid waste bulk pickup and expanding that, and that's, I gave council an update via email about what we're doing as staff. It's not ready to come to you yet. We'll bring it at some point in the future. I can't say it'll be February 22nd meeting, but at a near-term meeting, we will talk about solid waste options.
and I think the question in your, that we used to, based on the last time.
We
when-
cannot have public going to Public Works to drop off. I did verify that. That is
Well, but
not
Have you checked back in the minutes
kosher.
of that council meeting when we discussed the contract?
Mhm.
And at that time, staff told city council that yes, for those people who had more than the 6 cubic yards, that they could drop that off at the public works yard.
Well, I'm just going to tell you right now,
That's what staff told us at the meeting.
as city administrator, that's a very bad idea. When you mentioned it during the meeting, I was like, that can't be right. And I think it,
And they were shaking their
we
heads
would,
because
we
she
would,
never said it.
we would, I think, if people wanted to call and had an issue for the time being, if they want to call Public Works and say, hey, look, I need to come bring something, we might be willing to do that. But to just say carte blanche, people can come drop stuff off, bad idea.
Well, and again, that's what
You're gonna get
staff
everything.
told us at the
Well,
time.
and it's just, we have valuable things, and we don't, it's a secured area, and it needs to remain that way,
And that
for a
may
lot of
have
reasons.
thought of it, but Scott, where that came into was the fact the discussion is we were taking people back from 8 cubic yards to 6. And
Right.
that made people upset. So as a way to alleviate that issue is that if people did have that larger bulk,
Yeah.
then the city would make it available to do that.
I think, well, what we're gonna, so I appreciate the context, because obviously I wasn't here for that, but I still think that's, if I had been here back then, I would have said, no, we'll figure out something else. And that's basically what we're doing right now. Staff's trying to figure out what are some other ways that we can assist the public with excess bulk. Excess bulk, when it's plant material, is really not an issue. I mean, there's lots of things we have that chipper, we have other things we do. Excess bulk, when it's furniture and refrigerators and that kind of stuff, is a whole,
Mattresses.
that's a whole nother matter, frankly. And I think,
Yeah, and that was not, and staff did not
Yeah.
offer that option. It was simply
Brush.
brush.
okay, well,
Yeah, because
brush
that's
is,
the biggest-
brush is easy to deal with, and we certainly can find solutions for that. But the other items, we are going to bring you, I think, like I said, several options, and some of them will be expensive, and some of them won't.
Waste
Are you getting complaints
management.
about that?
Waste
Well, when it
management will always,
happened, when we went from 8 to 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a lot of people fuss.
I don't have nobody complain.
waste
And
management
in my
will
neighborhood-
come and pick up stuff if you call them and tell them.
But will they do it for free?
No.
They did they sent me some bags and I filled them with paint cans and put them on the curb. and
No,
they
that
came
is
and
for,
got
That's different.
for the, what do you call it, toxic waste stuff? So
Okay.
paint cans and
them.
oil.
Refrigerators
petroleum.
and.
I think they'll come and
computers
pick up excess brush, but they'll charge you for it.
Yeah.
And the city can come pick up excess brush.
it
It's one of
was-
the options we're looking at, but we're going to charge you for it. Unless you all tell us, no, we want to subsidize that, and then we're going to give you an idea of what that might cost us. So you can have an idea of what that subsidy is going to cost you.
For the hazardous waste material, they have certain parameters.
Okay.
And they do offer.
They did, they
protections.
made me label it all and bag it
Well, and one of the
everything
things,
else.
y'all pay for that. You pay like $1 a month for that. And that was part of the.
Contract.
Oh, it's been 5 or 6 years ago when they first implemented that.
So that, yes, your response to me is that an agenda item, so I agree with you, if you could come back to us. So it had to do with utility, it had to do with waste management, there was a third one.
The airport, the airport fence.
I only have
Well, I
two.
think the airport fence, yeah, that was.
That's still ongoing, and I'll update you as there's new information. I don't have anything as of today. I have followed up on it, but I don't have a firm answer from anybody.
Okay.
Well,
The only, I don't have no future agenda items, but
utility
just
policy
a
I take
comment. In my neighborhood, I see a couple of my neighbors putting leaves out in trash bags, and I know that's a no-no. I don't know if it's something that we could put in the little flyer that we do with the utility bill as a reminder. Again,
reminder, I'm sorry.
or just let them figure it out, or stop and tell them, or.
He was talking about the people putting out
I got-
leaves in black trash bags.
I know there's some black trash bags full of leaves in my neighborhood, and they're just sitting there. You know, they don't
Pick 'em up.
No, I know that, but they don't know that, and should I stop and tell them, or should we put it in the utility bill
I
as a
think we really need to have a
No,
discussion with
that's-
waste management on that because
Well, two things. Waste management, if we can get them to use door hangers and that kind of thing, so we'll pursue that. And the other thing is if we can get our community, our code enforcement can also have those
To
conversations.
just stop and tell them?
Yeah. I'll make.
I've seen people get these large paper leaf bags.
Right.
And they'll put out like 10 or 15 of them, and the truck that comes around and picks up bulk, they pick those up. They
Oh,
just
yeah.
throw them in the truck.
As long as they're paper.
Just no more
Paper.
bags.
I don't know what
They
the
don't
deal
do
is
the-
with
they don't do the
trash
plastic
bag, other
bags.
than I guess they can't see what's in it.
I can't see it in the paper either.
So they provide their own, they buy them?
Yes, you have to go buy the bags.
Which is
You
not
gotta
terrible.
buy the plastic bags too, so there really ain't no difference to the homeowner.
They're a
Paper
little
ones
bit
are
more
more
expensive. Those, I've bought them before. They're good to use, but they're like $4 a bag or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're not
They're
cheap.
a bit more expensive.
Oh, boy.
Box.
That's why they use plastic.
Yeah, box of 6.
I use plastic, but I haul them to the ranch and I feed the cows and the deer with them. You'd be amazed how they go through a pile of leaves.
Yeah?
Oh,
I
man,
compost.
I'm telling you,
I didn't know that.
absolutely. Everybody goes through them.
That's
In
where I'm
fact, the
bringing my
cattle
leaves
like to
in.
eat the leaves. Yeah. They like them green,
Right.
preference, but they'll eat them brown. Yep. It's got nutrients in it.
I'm bringing them over to you.
I'll show you where to dump them.
Todd's gonna have a bunch of bags in his house.
I'll show you where to dump them. I'll give you a combo. There you go.
Better get a camera, Todd, that's all I'm saying.
I got a camera on it. I got a camera on it. That's all I got.
I don't have any.
Great. All right.
Ah, we can adjourn.
We can adjourn. All right, we're through our agenda. We are adjourned at 8 o'clock. And I don't believe that we are going longer than they have in the past.